social, cultural aspect of Southeast Asia.
Good morning. Welcome back to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. This is Grace.
Hello, good morning. This is Gowri.
And then here we are. Anything can happen Friday.
That's right.
Yes, our first segment of the day after the news commentary. And today we're going to talk about the startups in Indonesia and also very well-known initiatives. It's called the Tech in Asia. And then we are glad to invite these two speakers all the way from Indonesia. One is Enricko Lukman, who is the editor-in-chief Tech in Asia, Indonesia. And then the other speaker is Ming. He is country manager, Tech in Asia, Indonesia. So let's say good morning to them.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, morning.
Hello,
Hi.
how are you?
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
how are you?
We're good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
All right. So could you share us a little bit a background of yourselves?
The background of ourselves.
Yeah.
I do editorial at Tech in Asia. So before this, I was an IT and statistics student, and then I went on to do freelance writing for a few publications, and then I went on to work at Tech in Asia.
All right. How about Ming?
For me, I'm a Singaporean actually.
Oh,
Oh,
Singaporean.
okay.
Hi.
Yes, hi. Yeah, so we are just a causeway apart. So for me, I started my own tuition center.
What kind of
in
tuition
Singapore.
center is that?
It's a small neighborhood kind of tuition center that have probably 50 to 100 students that come to your place to study, to have extra curriculum help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that is for my early part in 20 to 24 years old.
Oh, I see. So how did you guys actually join this Tech in Asia, and then how long has it been?
Okay. Good question. So for Tech in Asia, the founder is Willis Wee.
Mm-hmm.
So Willis is also the co-founder for my tuition center.
Oh, all right.
So we were very good friends since high school.
Okay.
Yes. So thereafter he started out blogging as during his undergraduate days,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually started Tech in Asia.
Okay, you mentioned about who actually started, and how long has it been, and kind of events, and what kind of topics have you been sharing about?
Okay. Actually, for Tech in Asia, it's a media company.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, we write about everything will be online. You can take it as an online blog and an online magazine.
Online magazine, all right. But
Yeah,
then I've noticed that Tech in Asia also focus a lot on the startups.
Yes, correct. So the key focus that we write about is mostly on startups, entrepreneurship, and Asia. So if you link all these three verticals, whereby it's anything that's Asia, anything that's startup, entrepreneur, and technology, internet, yeah, these three verticals, it will make up of what we cover.
So how many countries have you covered so far? I mean, Asia is pretty big, right? Are you mainly focusing on the ASEAN region or Asian in general?
Cover Asia in general. So we do have China, we do have India, Pakistan, and other countries. So we have Japan, we have a team in Japan, and also in Korea.
Oh, I see.
So it's more of Asia in general rather than ASEAN.
Key focus is on the startups and business and also entrepreneurs. So how has it been so far? How has Tech in Asia moved forward since it started?
Okay. So it's been I think roller coaster ride. So since we started from a 5-man team to become now a 50-60-man team.
Wow.
So it's been up and downs over the past 3-4 years. Yeah, but we grew very fast. So that is something that we are very happy about.
So was the startup the main focus from the first place, or you guys actually developed the idea while working for Tech in Asia?
Actually, for us, our mission is more of, because we see that for Tech in Asia, in general, the startups and the entrepreneurship new companies is not well covered by media.
I see.
Yes, so that's in US there are the TechCrunch, there's the Mashable, there's also bigger media that covering all the startups and the ecosystem.
I see.
But for ASEAN, this region, and also not a lot of medias are covering them. So that's where we find that we can probably do a decent job for the ecosystem.
I see. Startups, it's not something new, to be honest, but then only recently in Malaysia, in this country, the startup has been highlighted for the past few months, just recently. Korean ASEAN has been covering a lot of startups in Malaysia. So would you like to share what kind of topics that have you actually shared via Tech in Asia?
Some topics that we've shared, I guess it revolves around e-commerce. I think that's one business model that is working in anywhere, in any country in the world. So, especially for countries with new startup scene, with a very nascent startup scene, people would go to the more more sure business model, which is e-commerce. That's one. And then we also cover other aspects like what's happening in transportation startup scene, what's happening in what I would say besides e-commerce.
Again, e-commerce.
Yeah, I don't know,
that's
but
the famous topic.
It's e-commerce right now.
That is the hottest now.
Hottest, I see.
There's also I think the Uber trend, the Grab taxi is huge in Malaysia.
But definitely, yeah, Uber is great. But then the Uber, the company, is banned in other countries as well, right? I mean, not in Malaysia, but Malaysia is really booming up, the company itself. Yeah.
Uber in Jakarta, I guess, there had been some problems with the Jakarta government, but right now they're still operating and they're still relatively quite small here in Jakarta, but they're still doing something here. And they do have some problems in other countries, like for example in India, whereby they previously just operate quite well, but then this one case happened, and now they're doing whatever they could.
Yeah, there was a rape case that happened in India, but if you look at Thailand, that is also one of the countries that has banned the Uber company in their nation. But then I guess the Uber is a great startup as a company itself, and then some countries still do welcome this idea, having a new way of welcoming the clients when it comes to transportation. And what are the other areas do you cover other than startups and the business?
What else? That's the main gist. We also cover sometimes the consumer side. So for example, if Xiaomi is not okay, Xiaomi is kind of startup, but if there's launching a cool product, we talk about it, and then we also talk about Xiaomi's competition in the region.
I see.
Yeah. So hardware, we also talk about it. Something that's been crowdfunded in Asia, we also talk about it. We talk about enterprise IT, and then we talk about mobile apps, gadgets, those stuff.
I see.
So
anything to do with what? Sorry.
With internet startups, and also so about the startup scene. So in fact, there's a lot of funding news. In fact, there's a lot of investment news that is happening lately in a lot of countries. So these are news in which we will cover also. So of what investors are interested in it.
To start the business, there will be ups and downs, hurdles and challenges that one has to face. And it was shortly mentioned before that Tech in Asia had also a lot of ups and downs. So would you like to share with our listeners what are the challenges you guys have faced so far, hurdles that you guys had really difficult to overcome?
Okay. So I think for a startup, the first thing is capital.
Capital, yes.
So initially when we were starting up, I think in the first year, we got a small seed funding, right? So thereafter we grew a team to around 10 and hosted a Startup Asia, our first Startup Asia Singapore. So that was, I think after that time, we went into a cash flow problem. So that was a very tight period whereby I think our cash flow, we reached probably we were left with just our last 2 weeks of to pay our staff, to pay our...
So literally money was the problem to start this business.
Yes, right. So that was one of the low times. Yeah. So eventually, luckily, we met some very understanding and some good investors who.
That's very interesting point, because when you want to start up your own business, right, money is not something that you cannot ignore, because it's really important to push your business forward. And Tech in Asia is a very good example how you guys have developed so far since it started. But then, what was your uniqueness and also attraction points when you wanted to propose your business to the others?
Good question. So actually for us, it's more about, I think, at that point of time, there isn't many media that are really covering Asia full time. So a lot of them are most of them are doing it on a part-time basis or getting part-timers to cover the scene, which results in probably the news are not as accurate or the news are less probably timely.
All right.
So when we propose to investors are seeing that we are filling up a important gap in which no one is doing to cover it well and professionally.
So that those are the sort of attraction points that people like, oh yeah, why not investing in this business. So I'm actually looking at your website, and then it's very informative and a lot of contents are there. And I see there's one category called events. Could you elaborate on the events? What kind of events have you guys held so far on the Tech in Asia?
Yeah, actually for us, the biggest one is the Startup Asia Conference.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah, so we host it in Singapore, in Tokyo, and also in Jakarta.
How are the responses when you guys hold events? Because different countries have different audiences in terms of response and the feedback.
Right. So actually for our online site, it's more of, it gets a lot of people interested in the scene itself. So what we do for Startup Asia is we want to bring it further for people who are really interested in the scene to meet up offline. Right. So how Startup Asia, I think the main aim is to get those people who are interested in the scene to get connected and online and do something together. So the response is good. The response is very good.
What about in Southeast Asia itself? Which country is the most probably the most active one in terms of venturing into startups?
In Southeast Asia,
Yep.
I guess the most active ones would be Singapore, Indonesia, and then Malaysia is also quite active.
I see.
Is there a reason for that?
I think for Singapore and Malaysia it's quite direct government support. So in comparison to Indonesia is good because it's a very big market. So a lot of people, for example, like from Singapore, they come to Indonesia they come directly to Indonesia to expand and to seize the market while they can.
So do you mean that there are more foreign sort of businessmen coming in or investors coming into Malaysia rather than the local itself?
To Malaysia?
To Indonesia.
I'm talking about Indonesia, yeah. So I guess it's going to be about, like, when it comes to investors, I guess it's 50-50. Yeah, so 50% of local investors would focus more on, like, for example, seed funding, seed capital, whereby the foreign overseas investment would come in and they want to invest a lot of money, like Series A above. So that's for investment. And for startups, I guess you can say, okay, local startups more. There are more local startups in Indonesia, but also when it comes to people want to expand inside Southeast Asia, the number one country usually being targeted is Indonesia.
And then when it comes to startups in Indonesia, I actually would love to hear more about startups in Indonesia and to be able to share with our listeners. You've already mentioned that you guys have been focusing on e-commerce and also the startups regarding internet. So could you elaborate more in the Indonesian context?
Maybe what's happening inside Indonesia right now in the startup scene, right? So I guess in terms of human resource, what's happening is I think we are seeing more professionals coming in and wanting to build their own startups in the last few years compared to I think 4 years ago, there were more people building startups, but they were doing it mostly like in part-time basis, or they just did it because they wanted to, and maybe they just wanted to see what's going to happen.
Who
but
are
did
they
not
actually? Are they just the youngsters, or they were also professionals?
I think mostly youngsters,
Uh-huh.
a few professionals, but then again, they were still trying out things. But right now, we see more professional people coming in, like from other internet companies like Rocket Internet, or even from VCs that are doing something in Indonesia. These people sometimes get interested to also start something here. That's for
Indonesia, okay.
yeah, that's for human resource, but there are also other supporting factors, like now with, for example, 100 million investment on Tokopedia in Indonesia, which we think is a big news.
Uh-huh.
A lot of VCs now turn their heads like, what's happening in Indonesia? So more investment coming in, more people coming in, more support coming in, more incubators coming in. So everybody is now looking towards like, yeah, maybe Indonesia is a go-to place now.
So it looks very optimistic when it comes to startups in Indonesia. Also, with a new president, Joko Widodo, how has his support been towards the startups in Indonesia, or in terms of government support?
Interesting. Interesting question. In the new presidency, we still see no real tangible
Not yet.
support from the government
All right.
for the tech startup scene. Yes, not yet. But we see good progress. So, for example, there is this IT law whereby you can get jailed just by offending people online.
Oh,
That's
right.
not really good for the freedom of expression in Indonesia, or maybe, yeah. And also there's this regulation regarding the overseas investment. So, for example, if you are an e-commerce company, a B2C e-commerce company, and you want to receive overseas investment, you cannot do so. You must have 100% local ownership. So that's bad.
Oh,
But
all right.
now the new government is at least trying to listen in to what people, to the concern of people. So hopefully they can do something in the future.
Oh, and if you don't mind, could you share us more on the policies or regulations for locals or foreigners, whoever wants to actually go to Indonesia for startups? Or any restrictions that we need to know, we need to be aware of? In terms of funding, or in terms of starting the policy itself for foreigners. For example, let's say Malaysians goes to Indonesia to do his own business there. What are the regulations or restrictions that he has to be aware of?
Interesting. Besides the investment thing for e-commerce, besides the be careful of not offending people online.
Yes, of course.
Nothing comes out to my mind.
Yeah, I think it's still a very open business.
I see. All right.
Right. So.
Oh yeah, there's one thing. Taxation. So.
Taxation.
Right now,
how is it like?
I think again it comes to the e-commerce scene again, whereby the government hasn't taken anything yet from the e-commerce scene. At least they're doing something for the traditional businesses, but not for really techie side, right? E-commerce. But now they have this plan to issue certificates. For example, again, this is just still in talks, in plans. They want every seller to have certification if they want to sell online. Some people think that that's really weird, really weird, because now if you want to become just an individual seller, you will need to have certification to do so. That would be super weird, and that could hinder the ecosystem. But again, that's not implemented, but still in talks.
Okay. It may sound very weird, but isn't it also to ensure that you can get more credibility in what you're selling?
Yeah, I guess there's the pros and cons, of course. But still, a lot of people are raising questions because even though it's in plans, there's no concrete steps or concrete ideas how to implement this yet. I guess the pros is that you can get verification, right, for these sellers. But for the cons, I don't know. It gives a lot of extra effort for people who want to become entrepreneurs online.
I see. Oh well, I'm still looking at your website, and then I see this the title saying need free tickets to Mobile Game Asia. Could you elaborate on that? Because I also see games as one of your categories on your website.
Right. For us, we started as a startup tech in Asia. So everything we cover is startups and technology news.
Right.
So eventually we find that there's a lot of interest that is in gaming. Yes. So eventually we started another vertical, which is called Games in Asia.
Games in Asia, alright?
So, but that one we are trying it out in Indonesia. So that will be id.games in Asia. So gaming is also a very active scene, which we see. So e-commerce, gaming, there's a lot of them that is doing pretty well and coming up.
So does it mean that you're gonna be collaborating with the other game company? Like, Japan is very famous for producing a lot of games. I mean, same goes for Korea. So is that how you guys want to plan it out?
Yes. So actually, if you see that, I think if you see for most of the companies that's doing very well in the Nasdaq, a lot of them is, if you look at the tech companies that are in them,
Yep.
a lot of them that are listed are gaming companies, right? So that probably we will see the similar trend that is happening in Asia, hopefully.
I see.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Well, could you share us any upcoming events that Tech in Asia is planning to hold?
The upcoming one will be Startup Asia Singapore. That will happen So that will happen in May 5 and 6.
And then what's the focus of the event?
So the focus will still be always very consistent. So that's what we have always been offering.
But
so
this is not your first time holding the event in Singapore, right?
Yes. So this one it will be the fourth one. Right. So we will see about, I think the main thing that this year, the main difference that people will see will be a lot more vibrant.
I see.
Yeah, so usually all our conference have around 100 startups that's exhibiting.
I see.
This year we should expect 300 to 400 of them.
Oh, that's more than triple.
Yes, yeah. So from across the region, they will come over to exhibit. So for people who are interested in the startup scene, it's a good time to have a look at what is happening here.
All right, that's actually very good news. And other than that, how do you actually see startup scenes? Okay, let's focus in Indonesia in the next 5 years.
The startup scene, I guess, again, like you said, we're very optimistic with this, with what's happening in Indonesia. eMarketer, for example, they have this study that showcases Indonesia in terms of e-commerce B2C will have the biggest growth in Asia Pacific. That's one thing. And then we still see out of 250 million population in Indonesia, the ones that are online right now maybe is still about 90 million.
Oh wow.
We're still going to see more growth, more people coming online, and more market to share for everybody. So in terms of growth, in terms of market, people will still be coming here and try to establish themselves. So we see a very optimistic view in the coming years.
That's very interesting. And also, how can people find tech in Asia? What are the social medias do you guys have so far? And then the website, perhaps the address of the website?
Yeah, quite straightforward, the domain techinasia.com.
Yeah, right.
After is our Facebook and Twitter. So that will be the way in which people can engage with us.
All right. English speaking people. I thought you guys wanted to say something more. All right. Well, that's the end of our interview session today. Thank you so much, Ming and Enricko, for joining us for the interview.
Thank you.
Thank you.